What up? You rocking with your boy, Stay Humble. You tuned into my moment. Last Tuesday, we talked about Judges chapter 16, verse 20, and it says, "And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he woke from his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him." So in other words, he didn't realize that the Spirit of the living God left him. All right? So now that puts him in a position where he is truly powerless. But check this out though, okay? Verse 21 says this, "And the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he ground at the mill in the prison, but the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved." Verse 21 there says, the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. Yo, that's pretty crazy. So that means that they gripped him up, arrested him, and then they gouged his eyes out, okay? Now here's the thing. Could God have stopped that from happening? You know, could God have intervened? Well, we know if Jesus spoke to a storm and it stopped, he could certainly have kept Samson's eyes from being gouged out. So I want to read to you just this note that I wrote yesterday. Here's what it says. What is interesting to me is God could have stopped, verse 21, the gouging out of Samson's eyes. And God could have left Samson for any of his gross violations of his Nazarene vow, the covenant that he was in. Illicit sex, touching dead animals, and marrying outside of Israel. But instead, God was patient and merciful as the offended party. So really, God could have left Samson at any of the time he violated the covenant. God is good and patient and kind, but we often look past his mercy and gawk at his judgment. Someone might say, oh my gosh, I can't believe he let his eyes get gouged out. Well, what about all the days prior to that he was sinning and God had grace upon him, or mercy upon him, you know, instead of wiping him out? So it says, but we often look past his mercy and gawk at his judgment. He allows Samson to suffer the consequences of his sin, but he doesn't finally or ultimately leave him, because that verse in 22 says, and his hair started to grow back. So look at verse 23, and I'm going to end here. "Now the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their false god, and rejoice. And they said," check this out now, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand." They said, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand. Now, is that true? Did Dagon give the Philistines the victory over Samson? The answer is absolutely not. Dagon's not real. Dagon is a false god, okay? But, check this out. 16 verse 23, my notes. The Philistines had the victory because of Samson's sin. So, Dagon didn't give them the victory. And believers, it's the same thing for us. Nobody else gains the victory over us. Jesus won it. But Samson, because of his sin, he forfeited that victory. He forfeited that triumph, okay? And the same way in our lives, we need to root out the sin in our lives, man. We need to go after it because it's going to put us in a compromising position. And ultimately, if we want God to be glorified in our lives, then we need to be, which is what we'll continue on with next week, we need to be imitators. So God bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. Grace and peace. This is your moment.